Before we jump in, I just want to explain the gap in my content to the few of you who actually care about it or noticed. About 2 months ago, right while I was in the swing of making videos again, this channel was terminated for a rule that I didn't actually break. But after a lot of appeals and back and forth, YouTube restored the channel. So we're back and we're picking up exactly where we left off. The United States has had dozens of political parties. Socialist parties, populist parties, progressive parties, libertarian parties. Every few election cycles, one of them breaks through the national conversation and then just disappears again. That pattern isn't accidental, and it's not because Americans don't want the alternatives. Third parties fail in the United States for one simple reason. The system is built to make them fail, and once you understand how that system works, America's two-party lockup starts to look pretty unavoidable. The founders deeply distrusted political parties. George Washington warned that parties would divide the country, inflame rivalries, and put loyalty to factions above loyalty to the nation. That fear is reflected in the writing of the Constitution itself. Political parties are not mentioned anywhere in it. Not once. The Constitution assumes that elected officials act as individuals, not as members of permanent teams. But almost immediately, that assumption collapsed, because once you introduce elections, political parties become just about inevitable. Within a decade of ratifying the Constitution, Americans had already formed organized political camps of sorts, Federalists and Democratic Republicans. These early parties weren't built around ideology the way modern parties are. They were built around a common interest. Economic priorities, regional power, and who benefited from federal authority and who didn't. As soon as elections began determining who had the power, this kind of coordination became necessary. If you want to win, you organize. If you organize, you form alliances. And if you form alliances, you gotta create parties. The irony is that the Constitution tried to ignore political parties, and in doing so, guaranteed their creation. This next bit is the most important part of this video. If you only take away one thing from this, take away this. The single rule that explains why third parties fail in the United States is simple. It's winner-take-all elections. In most American elections, only one person can actually win. There is no proportional representation. There are no coalition governments. If you get 49% of the vote, you get absolutely nothing. That single rule changes how people vote. Instead of voting for the candidate they like most, voters start voting against the candidate they fear most. Political scientists call this Duverger's law, but the idea is pretty simple. In a system where only one winner is possible, voters eventually abandon smaller parties because voting for them feels risky, and that's understandable. Even if you like a third-party candidate, voting for them can help elect the candidate you like least. Over time, voters learn this lesson. And once voters learn it, third parties just stop being viable. This is where third parties develop their worst reputation. They don't just lose, they change who wins. They're known as spoilers of sorts. When a third party pulls votes away from one major party, it can swing an election to the other side. That makes third-party candidates seem dangerous, even when their ideas are very popular. A clear example of this is the 2000 presidential election. Ralph Nader didn't come anywhere close to winning, but in states like Florida, his vote total was larger than the margin between George W. Bush and Al Gore. Whether or not those voters would have chosen Gore if Nader wasn't there, the perception stuck. Voting third party helps decide the election, and that lesson echoed far beyond 2000. Voters don't ask, who do I actually agree with? They ask, who's gonna win? The result is strategic voting. People vote for the major party they dislike less, not the candidate they like more. That behavior isn't irrational, it's learned. And once enough voters behave this way, third parties are locked out permanently from major elections. At this point, you might ask, why doesn't the system just change? The answer is simple. The two major parties control the rules. They write ballot access laws. They control debate participation. They shape election administration. This isn't some kind of conspiracy. It's just self-interest. No dominant party willingly changes the rules that keep it dominant. And because third parties can't win power, they can't change the very system that excludes them. The two-party system becomes self-reinforcing. So, in conclusion, America doesn't have only two major political parties because voters choose them to be that way. It has two political parties because the system rewards them. Third parties don't fail because their ideas are unpopular. They fail because the rules punish them. Until those rules change, the outcome won't. The two-party system isn't inevitable, but under the current structure, it is unavoidable. And that's why third parties in the United States don't just struggle, they always fail.